The 1920s were known as the Jazz Age or the Roaring Twenties. People lived on cities and not farms due to the Industrial Revolution, mass immigration, and jobs. The nation's wealth more than doubled during this period. Americans were swept away by the economic growth. Many people had enough money to buy goods because of advertisements. They also listened to the same music like jazz and blues, and they were very popular during this time. And they also did the same dances. Many of these dances were done by young women called flappers. These women would wear short skirts, makeup, and bobbed hair. They shocked traditional-minded women by smoking and drinking. This is why all this was considered unladylike at this time. After this, women gained some freedom. The 19th Amendment let them vote. During this era, Americans had extra money, so they would spend it on goods like clothes, home appliances, and radios. People also went to the movies very often during this time. By 1929, over 100 million went to the movies each week. Most importantly, residents consumed money on cars. By 1929, 1 out of 5 Americans owned a car. Henry Ford's assembly line made cars affordable. This product helped many people due to the fact that they could live farther away from their jobs and they could also get to places faster. Cars also made businesses like service stations and motels increase. Sports were also important during this time. Baseball, boxing, and football were popular sports. This gave America a new generation of heroes like Babe Ruth, who was a very famous baseball player, and Jack Dempsey, who was also a famous boxer. During the Roaring Twenties, some freedoms were expanded. The Constitution banned the sale of alcohol or intoxicating drinks. A year after this, the Volstead Act closed every bar and tavern in the U.S. America. Americans weren't happy with this decision. They decided they would illegally make speakeasies, where it was controlled by bootleggers and racketeers. Prohibition was then the only source of social tension during this time. The Great Migration of African Americans increased the visibility of black culture, like jazz and blues, and also the Harlem Renaissance. Many people in places like Illinois and Indiana joined the Ku Klux Klan during the 1920s. This Klan represented a return to all the values during the 1920s. The Roaring Twenties were trampling. An anti-communist Red Scare encouraged an anti-immigrant hysteria. This led to the passage of a restrictive immigration law. These conflicts were called a cultural civil war between ad-dwellers and residents. All these were perhaps the most important parts of the Roaring Twenties.